before we get into that, I want to see in the comments what are the things that you don't like or you wish could change about the Austin area in general. But while we're doing that, JJ, Daphne, how are you? And what are your first thoughts, your opening thoughts?
Well, I kind of have a question for y'all, and I can go
Yeah,
first. I can go first if necessary. But
all of
what
it.
is for you guys? Sorry, let me preface that by saying we all came to Austin at different times. What has been for you guys the biggest change? Just one singular biggest change you've seen that you don't like?
Love that question. I love it. JJ, what do you think?
My first thought was it's growing rapidly, but I also think I'm okay with that change, or I'm making like peace with it, right? Because I see the culture changing. But then I thought what I really don't like is traffic. I think I-35 is ridiculous, and I I audiobook to make peace with that when I'm waiting, but it's pretty rough, man. And I like my blood pressure goes up in traffic.
Mhm.
It's a lot going on. The 35 split is bananas. South of that strip of 35 that's like Slaughter to like Kyle Buda.
Mm.
What is that? Like I've and if there's like an accident, it's game over. I've been like an
Dude,
hour late to a
she
show
said
just
one thing. You're killing me. I'm trying to keep up. Okay, so
Traffic,
the
but
the
traffic
35
has a lot of baggage.
split traffic and what else? 35 split traffic and what else?
traffic was the main thing that
I thought
that
you'd given another one.
Yeah.
uh and some of these like I have a con, but there's also like a flip pro, but there's really no con, there's no pro to traffic.
Yeah.
That one just sucks.
Well, okay.
What
All
you got?
right. I I'm gonna if you gave two, I'm gonna give two. The first one, the first one was when Fry's Electronics closed. Right.
That is
Well,
so niche.
here's why this is important. We're
It's
supposed
funny.
to be a culture of tech. And how is like one of the coolest tech places going to close in the center of a tech hub?
Hmm.
You see? Right? Like that's a big deal. Like I was just reading an article a couple days ago about this guy who worked for Cloudflare, that built a home. It like built a land party house. Do you know what land parties are? Have you talked about that? Have you talked about land parties? Okay,
Not
land party stands for local area network. It's an old nerdy term where basically people that would bring their computers to a house to play, kind of like a cyber cafe, right?
oh,
Like
But so they
LAN.
built this house. They built LAN. They built this house around that concept because that is the culture of Austin. There's actually a really big gaming culture in Austin,
Mhm.
and so the fact that you can't go to Best Buy and get this stuff, right? You can go to Micro Center, which is in Houston and Dallas, and you can go to Fry's. Micro Center is now coming to Austin finally years later, but Fry's was the only place. So yeah, I was in Houston yesterday, Cyber Monday, so I was like, well, I'm gonna stop and go to Micro Center because you have to. Anyway, so that's the first one. Fry's closing. That was so detrimental to my livelihood. That was a big one. The actual real estate one though, the real estate one though is when Rainy Street started getting high rises.
Mm.
Mm,
I was
yeah.
so angry because I thought all of the cool factor is leaving the area. The whole reason everybody wanted to be there is because you had all these cool little bars and all that. And don't get me wrong, like Bangers has expanded, all that stuff has happened, but at the detriment of a lot of the other cool places that were there.
Yeah, I got to vent
So
about
those are
that
my
one
two.
because I'm with you on Rainy. I try to explain what Rainy was as opposed to what it is to people because there's like a few houses that are now commercial venues, but that was what was appealing about it. So I say it used to be the street with a bunch of houses that turned into uh, bars and clubs and restaurants, but now it's a bunch of high rises. So you'll see like a couple of those houses, and it just doesn't sound as cool.
Can we talk really quick about the time frame of Rainy? Because I remember in 2014, 2014, early 2015, that they still had the little houses that were bars and restaurants and was very neighborhoody, village-y feeling and super cute. At what point, sorry, and before that, shortly before that, it was just a very rundown street close to downtown.
Yeah.
And then it became what we were just talking about, how there's this kind of this little village type street. And then very quickly, it became this high-rise hotel, outdoor luxury mall type thing. Like the evolution was very fast. It wasn't
Very.
even there for what was the time frame on that? Am I making that up?
No, it was that fast. I think in the
No, it was like
2000s.
2017-ish is when the high rises started.
Okay, so it
Yeah,
was
I
like
think.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I think in the 90s and 2000s, it was like a residential street. I mean, that's arguably because of the high rises, if you count that, the most gentrified street in Austin,
Yeah.
right? Because of go by tax dollars, right? Like the multi-million dollar condominiums that got stacked on top of that street because that was a street that extended and resembled the east side, straight
Mhm.
up east of I-35.
Yeah.
And those used to be houses. So I'm sure the people that lived there that called them homes also appreciated it back then.
Because I remember it used to be such a cool street because it's like you had, I think it's the Malago over there, which was one of the first condos that went up.
Yeah.
And I want to say that was like 2005 or six. If I'm
Yep.
probably making that up, but that's sort of the time frame. And then there's
Yep.
another apartment development over there. And those were like the only two high-end luxury living. The rest of it was houses. And then it was the Mexican American Cultural Center,
Hmm.
which was so cool. And it totally tied everything together. Well, sort of tied things together.
An attempt to.
What's that?
An attempt to.
Yeah, yeah, and that was so nice, and now it's like, oh, just like we said, it's just a bunch of high rises and condos and, the hotels, and it feels completely different, and I'm all for growth, but it's like so many of the things in Austin that make Austin, Austin have been plowed down and replaced by big ticket commercial companies, spaces, buildings.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about. So I think those are traffic is huge. Obviously, the rainy thing is huge. Cultural centers being torn down is huge, right?
Mhm.
Gentrification. That's definitely a topic of discussion. How do you feel about the public transportation?
Well, we never had any to begin with.
Yeah, but if you came from a place that had it, right? So you're right. You're right. We never had any to begin
Yeah.
with, but traffic's getting worse and transportation isn't getting better yet.
Mhm.
I know in a couple of years they're working on that. Um, how about jobs? What have you been hearing on that front for pay? What
Mm.
people are getting versus, you know, what they're expecting. Like think about it this way: people in Austin used to be able to afford homes
Yeah.
based on the pay that was commonplace in Austin, and today it's not really the case, right?
Mm.
It's not easy. You can't work at a, and I'm not saying you're supposed to be working at a coffee shop or a pizza shop and then trying to buy your first home, but your teachers in the area should be able to buy a home.
Mhm.
Teachers, for crying out loud, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. How they've been, how they felt in Austin. So remember, we're talking about the things that make people want to leave Austin. Like, what are the hard truths? So people that have never been here, that are considering this place to move, we love it here, but there are things that are absolutely topics of conversation. So our education system, specifically teachers, the recapture of taxes, that's a conversation, and then just kind of the I'll call it the political landscape of the education system. All of those are very relevant in Austin area right now.
Ooh, that was a loud noise. I think uh, overall salaries and expected cost of employees has had to have gone up because we have so many high tech companies that we didn't have a decade ago. A decade ago, it was literally Apple on Palmer. It was Oracle had just gotten here. and Dell. And that was kind of it. And Dell was a place to work if you wanted to make money. And so was Apple. But we didn't have the abundant options that we do now. And even if you were working like as a teacher, or even if you were working like in a managerial job in customer service, you could still get an apartment, like a decent apartment, maybe have a roommate and have a very comfortable lifestyle. Today, that same apartment, I don't know how, I mean, I don't know the rental market very well. But I know rental prices have gone up. They've definitely at least doubled in the last 10, 15 years. And that same managerial job is not, if it was paying, I don't know, 40 grand a decade ago, that hasn't doubled. They're not making 80 grand, 100K. So, and this kind of ties into like the culture stuff too, because there used to be so much live music in Austin and you could just find live music anywhere and everywhere. And so many of the artists just can't afford to live here. And they are also being pushed out and they're going other places.
That's a big one. Live music in general. I've seen it kind of subside. Now, half of that is COVID's fault, but the other half is stuff like what happened with Rainy, where all these high rises are showing up. Where's everybody going to play? Right? Out in Zilker Park in the middle of August.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, somebody does.
I mean, really,
but
what's that?
I said, I mean, that does happen. There are concerts for that, but it's not Blues on the Green. What was it? The Symphony. The Symphony was doing free symphony nights every week, and all of that kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And it's starting to pick back up, but that culture was just kind of lost on us, unfortunately.
Or
and people that hadn't lived here wouldn't know it.
Right. And that actually kind of ties into another point. So I remember when I first moved here in 2010, like we would go to 6th Street and party, and there would be guitarists just like standing on the corner, setting up on the corner, and you could just listen to the cool guitar music. In the bars too, there was live music, different styles of live music. And that's changed largely because a lot of the musicians have moved away or they can't afford to live here. And then just the fact that like not as many people I think go to 6th Street anymore. Also, that's changed tremendously. I'm not mad about it, but that is something that has changed. So yeah, it all really ties together, I think, for us. Anyone else?
Let's talk about real estate. How do you feel about the homes that used to be built in the Austin area versus what you're seeing now?
JJ, I've been talking. You go.
Yeah, I think it's just tough because I accept that the jobs are here, right? There's a tech boom, and like I saw I don't know Evan's last name, but he does a lot of West Campus leasing, like a realtor's Instagram reel. And if you know West Campus, it used to have the old 1900s homes for student housing, like old houses, and people would rent them, maybe duplexes. And he did one of those Google Maps where you get the street view, and then he showed what it looked like in the 2000s. And he would pan an intersection. So it'd be like, 2000s, 23rd and Nueces Street. And it's like this old 1900s charming house, a bunch of history because it's like 100 years old. And then you look down the street and there's several of those. And then the real evolves to 2024 and it's like Rainy Street. It's just like Rainy Street. It's the same thing. And although the West Campus houses were more preserved, but yeah, but that's kind of, I've been reading a lot of history books lately. It just that's how it goes down, unfortunately. And it's like I wish it was slower, but it was slow. So, anytime I see an older house, I do my best to appreciate it because it can get turned into something new with a bulldozer and some construction.
Yeah.
That sounds like a series that the real estate lab should do. We just go and tour some of the older houses.
Yeah,
that we find access to, right?
They're
That'd
cool.
be really cool.
And construction now is so boxy and quality questionable.
Here
Yeah,
it is, right?
Yeah.
I was in South Dakota, and it was different, right? Like they were still putting some character into the new builds there.
That's good.
Which I was like, really, South Dakota? But they still cared. What were you gonna say, Daphne?
What was I gonna say? JJ, what did you say right before that? The thought escaped my mind.
It just reminded me of Rainy Street. Like I brought up I'm reading history books. It gives actually reading history makes me realize there's nothing new going on, as sad as it is. But you know,
Thank you for
uh,
jogging my memory. Sorry to cut you off.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. So one thing that I tell a lot of my clients when they are looking at new construction homes, there's because a lot of times they're first time home buyers and they're looking for a deal, and I will tell them there's certain communities, certain builders that are going to be probably a better option for them just given their criteria. And they always ask, like, is this a good quality home? And I tell them it's not that it's not a good quality home. It's just not the best that it could be. And then I also share with them that what I saw starting in like 2015 and 2016, that's really when our market like really started to explode. And that's when and that's all over. So like Austin, Round Rock, Pflugerville, not quite Georgetown yet, but like even South Austin, like that's when we started seeing a lot more new construction. And that's when I think builders realized that they could get away with so much. So I think after 2016 really is when a lot of builders started cutting corners. There are a couple big builders out there, and I think you guys will know who I'm talking about, that you go in and you say, they'll have a dozen floor plans. You say, I want this floor plan. And the builder says, you get this color package or this color package, period. That's it. And before it used to be, it's like, well, we've got this combination of countertops with cabinets and carpeting and no, that doesn't exist anymore. This is what you get. The end.
Yeah.
And I think just because of like the pace of everything, I mean, being able to build a house in 4 or 5 months is so impressive. That also comes at a cost. So yeah, I think quality is not.
I remember it was 2017. There was it was the first time I had seen this because homes would take, anywhere from 6 to 10 months depending on the builder that you had chosen,
Yeah.
right? And I remember that was the first time one of the builders bought or created a sub brand in Austin.
Uh-huh.
And so, you had these builders and then they created a sub brand.
And it's
they
a
created this
lesser
sub brand.
quality brand. Are you
Right.
going there?
Right. It's
Yeah.
like Lexus, then they had Toyota, even though it went the other way around. But they had created this lesser
Yeah.
product, but it
Level.
seemed like a new builder. And so people were getting all excited about this. I remember looking at the build quality of this thing, and they were like, yeah, we can get it done in 3 months. And I was like, no, you can't. And sure as crap, they were getting homes built in 3 months. And that's including permits and all that sort of stuff.
That's a liability.
And so, and this
Like
is with the buyers being able to choose elements of the home. This wasn't like an inventory style home or this was a build to suit. Like, tell me what you want and we'll put it all together. All of that within 90 days. So when I started, we would walk through, we did the like the pre-drywall walks and stuff. I remember seeing like all of the 2x4s were actually jointed instead of it just being a solid wood bar or solid piece of wood. It was actually sectioned off into 2 or 3 pieces of wood, and they were just slapped together like that. And I was like, that's not. Why would you do that? This is a house. You need some stability.
Yeah.
I have a political
And then
theory.
you started seeing stuff like people weren't even offering sod on houses at that point.
Yes.
Oh my
They
gosh.
stopped
It's been
offering
for a while.
sod. There were no gutters on houses.
That's still a thing.
But they were only taking it away because they could get away with it here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? But that's the thing that you need, but people weren't realizing that. And so that's when I started seeing the shift in construction quality. And then it changed completely as COVID took over.
It went further into
Oh yeah.
the crapshoot.
The 2020s.
Like already like, and then, but yeah, by the time we had the pandemic, it was just like, oh, let's just like, who cares about anything anymore? We're going to put beer cans on the walls and you might find a dead body in your island.
I've had lots of beer cans and walls, things beyond beer cans, but yes.
Etc.
People don't know what kind of food is sitting in their wall right now. The inspector, here's the thing, if you buy a new construction home, that's the thing. People are like, oh, I bought a new house, right? I don't have to worry about what's going on with it. I don't need a realtor. I don't need an inspector, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but if you're not there for the whole process, you don't know how this home was built.
Literally.
It is absolutely important for you to at least pay that kind of attention to it. Try to, anyway. Some builders, that's something that happened today in the real estate market. Some builders are like, yeah, we don't want you to use an inspector. It's like, what? What do you mean you don't want us to use an third-party inspector? How are you going to tell me that?
I like this conversation because it prefaces people that aren't very aware of how houses get built and the trades and what happens on construction sites, because some of them show up and they're just so flabbergasted, and some of them get really upset. And I do my best to say, hey, do you think you're the only house in the history of housing construction, like when you look around, that is going through this type of construction, or is it possible this whole neighborhood is built like that? And it's a weird thing to understand the what's it called, the sausage factory, like seeing what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah. I
'Cause
know.
that's what
I understand the
happens.
reference. Yep.
I don't think it's called the sausage factory.
Actually, no, he's right though. He is. He's right. People don't want to see how the
Stop
sausage
it.
is made. No, it's a thing. People don't want to see how the sausage is made. They
You
just
sure it's
want-
not pickle factory?
I promise.
No, it's like it has to do
Oh.
with like the slaughterhouse and the hot
Basically,
dog.
it's like people want to see the finished product. They don't want to see. They want to pretend that there's magic behind the scenes. They don't want to see what
Sorry,
it really
I'm just
like the process.
yeah.
I know it sounds weird, but
No, it's a thing.
Yeah, I've actually never heard that. I guess my immature ears.
Oh, I know. We're all going
sausage
there for
factory, I don't
sure.
think that's-
We're all going there.
Yeah.
But that's what it means. Oh,
So
I
Sean,
need to pull this out.
Sean OSX says plenty of chicken bones laying around. Yes, sir.
it's spiraling out of control. I mean, the trades just, they could build on chicken and beer. And
You know what? A real story here. I had a client that just built a home through a very big builder last year in Dripping Springs. And I actually advised them against going with this builder just because I felt like they was super overpriced, but they wanted to, whatever. The builder, we closed on the house. The builder had made a ton of mistakes. They were not willing to fix anything on the inspection, which was a massive red flag. But the way that the contract was written, my client was totally looped in. So they would have lost their $30,000 deposit. We close. I wasn't super happy with the builder, whatever. My client started having issues with like the kitchen, like the cabinets were kind of warping and just being weird. And then there was like weird seams in the island countertop and all these things. So the builder went in and redid the entire kitchen. But when they pulled up which is good, but the fact that they had to do that is not good. But they pulled up the countertop on the kitchen island. It was filled with trash. There were wrappers and beer cans and like McDonald's bags and like all this crap. And that's not every builder.
is that a big builder or was it like a mom and pop builder?
No, big builder in a big
National?
community. Huh?
National builder?
Are they national? I mean, they're in what's the community called in Dripping Springs? Really nice big community in Dripping Springs.
High
I
Point.
go there a little bit.
That's okay. Now they're definitely well known.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You got to call Daphne to find that out.
Yeah, here's my phone number. Kidding. Yeah, I mean, it was. So going back to your point, Ian, like how we were saying, right, like the quality of construction has come down significantly.
Do you think, okay, I'm going to get political. Who was president 2016 to 2020?
Oh,
right? Trump.
I was going to say Obama.
Let me use my ears to make sure. It's Trump, right?
Yeah.
Or Obama. I don't know. I just felt like there was a lot of things about, stop me if this is getting too political, like illegals leaving or whatever. And then all of a sudden, or not illegals, but immigrants.
That was the ICE initiative.
Yeah. And then,
right?
I don't know. I might be connecting too many dots. And then I was like, wait a minute. And tariffs too, because I know all this stuff still is flown in internationally. Like I think even marble countertops, granite, something. I don't know all the details, but are we in for more of that the next 4 years?
I do think so, but that's here's the question. The problem with a political statement like this is not whether or not we're headed that direction. It's whether or not we should do it that way. I think that's the real problem, right? Like, do we want to focus on that and try to restore American jobs, or do we want to continue as we've been doing it because corporations are able to profit more right now? Like, I don't know. But to your point, that is when a huge change did take place.
Yeah, I don't know what it was,
Right.
but I'm just like trying to figure out, is quality of housing ever going to come back, or is it just going to be these, you know?
Right.
But also, aren't we kind of in a society where it's just like, how can we make more money?
Everything's fast.
And it moves fast. How can we make more money? And we have a shortage of housing, even though the numbers don't look great in Austin today.
And
as soon as the interest rates drops, we're going to be out drops to like 5.5%. We'll be out of houses immediately, within a few months again.
That's why
It's
I
the
don't
same
think they're
thing.
going to let that happen. I think
Yeah, but they're not thinking about Austin. This is federal.
Yeah. Austin's crazy.
The rest of the United States has other things. Austin's in a different spot. So
Yeah.
whatever they do federally is still going to impact us. So
Yeah.
And it's gonna just kind of screw up Austin's housing prices again. But hopefully this time people are wising up to the fact that you shouldn't use your Zillow offers. You shouldn't use Open Door. All it's going to do is screw up the local economy here if you have family here or have any vested interest in staying here.
We still have a lot of inventory to absorb too.
Yeah.
So if the interest rates go down, there's still absorption, but I think I actually have info here. I think there's such pent up demand, like this AI Google thing I looked up. National Association of Realtors, the average age of a first time homebuyer in the United States is currently 38 years old. In 2023, it was 35 years old. Prior to that, it was even younger. I mean, there was a point where it was like late 20s, I think. We're up to 38 years old.
That is wild. Is that for first time home buyers or just in general?
This said first time home buyers.
Yeah, because it's right now, for a lot of first-time home buyers had to pay down their college debt before they could even think about buying a home.
How old were you guys when you bought your first house?
I was 26 and I used a subprime loan. I was a new realtor and I did a stated income and I got my downtown condo.
That's how you got it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thank God I didn't get foreclosed on, but that's why I started picking up the phone and making sales calls. I was like, how'd they let me borrow? At the time, it was like $250,000 to get into downtown, which sounds kind of crazy now. But
no, it was a lot then. I remember.
Oh, it was definitely a lot then.
Yeah, I remember like 2014. One of my friends had just bought a house over in Pflugerville, but it was like the edge of Northeast Austin and Pflugerville, right on 35. And it was $175,000, and he was actually undocumented, just a very hard worker. And he's like, "Can you believe they gave he was like 25. He's like a 25-year-old immigrant a loan of $175,000? Like, it was a lot of money. It was definitely a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It still is a lot of money.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is a lot of money. Yeah.
Okay. Ian, how old were you when you bought your first house?
29 or 30, something like that.
Was
so
that
I waited because I traveled. I did a lot of different stuff first, and school and worked. And so it's interesting because I actually had I would have bought it, I think it was like 4 or 5 years prior, so about the same age as JJ, but it fell through and it was a whole disaster. And I was like, this sucks. I hate it.
Oh.
I was so mad. Yeah. But I actually just hung out with this guy. He's a real estate investor I say real estate investor. He's on his second duplex, and he's 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, good job. So
smart people.
I think it was military.
There's a way to do it. There absolutely still is way to do
great,
that.
man.
Yeah.
It's definitely harder though, I think. I mean, obviously, it's more expensive.
It is.
Yeah, he was at our Friendsgiving. We do a Friendsgiving kind of situation, and so he was a new recruit, and I was like, really? Like, we didn't know. I didn't know that he was into real estate. He didn't know I was into real estate. I love that. You just get people together. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm on this. I'm like, dude, who taught you that? He was like, because that's always the question. How are you learning this information?
Yes. And you have to be surrounded by the right people, because otherwise you just get like young men And women in general just get scared, and then a lot of times they just don't do anything.
So here's my PSA, and I think all of you will agree on this. But if you're watching this, here's my PSA: if you are, if you are in the service and you have access to VA, and or are leaving the service or whatever, before you get married, try to buy a multifamily home. I don't care if it's a duplex, triplex, or a quadplex. If you can make that happen while you're single, that will be everything for you in the future.
Yeah.
That's my
That's
PSA.
massive. Yeah, and the reason being real quick. So if anybody's listening in the military, that this would apply to, like, you can literally get in with no money down, and hopefully you can find something that's in good enough condition, because the VA does get a little finicky. But if you can get in with no money down and you've got any sort of like disability, your property taxes could potentially be very low, and then you could start at least breaking even, but hopefully cash flowing within a few years. And that thing is just going to keep appreciating. It does not matter where you're located, pretty much.
But back to Austin, like, where do you think this person
Yeah.
could find a multifam that's in the military?
I mean, they can find it by Manchac or
Yeah.
even in Temple. It depends on how far they're willing to drive
Okay.
and what they're trying to accomplish, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they could find something a little further out.
I mean,
Because that's the thing. Like, what are they doing anyway? Playing PS5? Like, they're not. No offense, but
sure.
they're not doing anything
I mean, I live in a
with your
duplex.
time.
Yeah, I live in a duplex that I bought in 2018. I live right by the domain. And I've put a lot of work into it, and it's super cool now. And I've moved in and out of it a couple times. But it's my favorite asset for sure. Anyway, we're talking about what we don't like about Austin.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the things we don't like. So let's talk about. Do you remember when all of a sudden there are all these flippin' toll roads out of nowhere, and it's not even going into the Texas economy? It's all being built by another country. Remember that? Remember when that happened?
I don't even know. I don't even know the logistics of the
I
toll
don't
road.
either. Say more.
Okay. Well, from what I understand, the toll roads are not owned
They
by
Russian?
Texas. Point is, we
Mexican.
have all these toll roads, all this money that we're paying, and I guess the question is, do we like that there are more toll roads? I don't know that I like it, but it does help me get a few places faster. But it is quite costly. You want to talk about nickel and diming people? You got to pay to go everywhere, and the way they built it, it's so confusing. You're like, oh, do I get on? Do I get off? Do I get on? Like, when am I going to pay? There are so many times where I try to avoid it, and all of a sudden I get caught up, and I'm like in a toll lane.
And you're in
"What
it
just happened?"
anyway.
Yeah, you're in it anyway. They did that. They did that crap on purpose, is what I'm saying. I
Absolutely.
hate that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good thing about the toll roads, luckily, is that you can move around pretty quickly. The big negative is that they are on opposite sides of town. So it's like they're not a circle. It's just like you're in that one or you're in that one. And there's really not like an efficient way to connect them unless you're way north or way south.
Well, I moved to Pflugerville,
Yeah.
so when I moved this
Yeah, but-
far out, I was very cool with 130 as a toll road.
I think they kind of set it up to where it's an easy way to get around the city,
Mm-hmm.
right? And every major city, as they grow, they need that anyway. Oh my gosh, let's talk about the infrastructure. How many roads are still flooding?
I don't know. How many roads are still flooding?
I mean, we haven't had any rain to see it happen, but there are a lot of roads where the infrastructure and the drainage is so bad in Austin that it has no choice but to flood in a heavy rain.
Oh, wow.
Like, there's still places. I remember, over by Brushy Creek was one. I saw one in Liberty Hill a couple days ago where it has these dips, and you see, or in Lago too. You see all these dips, and you see the meter that says, "Oh, you can't cross this road."
Oh, those
It's
roads.
X height. It happens all the time, right? Because they haven't created any kind of system to be able to drain fast enough. Speaking of rain, that's another topic. How many times have you gone to Barton Creek, and it was empty of water? Not the pool, but like you go further down, and there's just no water there. It's just
Actually,
dry as a bone.
Really good point. So I don't have experience with Barton Creek in that. No, lies. I do. I absolutely do. Yes. And Lake Travis. Actually, no, so I was remembering you guys. It's kind of funny that you said that. We did a video a couple years ago about best hiking places, and we went to Barton Creek. And I was like, well, right behind me is a creek, but it's dry right now. See, we can stand at it. Then we like went and walked around a little montage. Someone left a comment.
Read Mind Your Business with Donna. That's funny. Can you read that, or is it too
Oh,
small
that's her
on my screen?
name. Is that her name? Mind Your Business with
Yeah.
Donna? That is so funny. I was like, is that a reference to something?
It might be. I'm assuming it's a business account. That's great. But she said, so Donna says it's all good. It was all good until Mopac, which used to be free, was turned into a toll road. You are absolutely correct with that. That was very frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing with the infrastructure is really interesting in Austin because I've heard multiple times that Austin at no point was supposed to be a large city, even though it's the capital of Texas. It was always supposed to have kind of this small town feel, which it did, but I mean, it grew, so it had to expand. So that's why we have so many growing pains, I feel like. It's part of it.
Yeah, but how many people moved here for that? For the small city feel, and now it's growing so fast.
No. It doesn't. It's interesting because it's definitely not a small town feel anymore, but it's also not quite big city like New York either.
Do y'all have do y'all still have allergies?
Yes.
Remember when like you first moved here and cedar was like the bane of your existence? You just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
You still have that? I haven't had it for a while. Every once in a while I get a little bit of a flare up, but for the most part, I got acclimated.
Did you ever get allergy shots?
My whole childhood was allergy shots.
Really?
So,
Really?
yeah. Yeah. When I was in Chicago, that was actually one of the reasons I relocated here because I felt wonderful when I was here.
Oh, what were you allergic to?
And then cedar set it. Literally everything. I'm allergic to grass. Like I'm seriously allergic to everything up north.
So how are you faring in Austin?
So my first 2 weeks, probably first three to 4 weeks, I'll say, I did a neti pot every day, every morning and every night, and I had local honey from different vendors. I just did that. It was one of those. I watched it on Oprah. Or so, I don't know. I was looking for like ways to.
That's what we watched then. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that every day for a while, and then I would also do like cinnamon toast and just like all sorts of stuff, trying to get as many local components into my diet. And after that, it was wonderful. I didn't have any major allergic reactions to anything for years.
Still do it?
And then, no, I haven't done it since. I haven't done it since 2015, I think. It's been a while.
Wow.
Yeah, I the last time I went to the doctor was for like kind of like mucus infection because the allergies, and I was told to switch up the allergy pills because your body could get used to it. So I started switching it out, but I have terrible allergies out here.
Every once in a while, when it's high cedar, like when you go outside and your car's green, I know you've had that happen. You're like, why is my car green? When that happens, it'll almost be as bad as the flu. Like allergies can hit you, like they hit hard. So people that have not spent time in Austin, usually it takes a couple of years to hit you hard, but when it hits you like a truck.
Yeah.
And this cedar is nothing to mess with. Even if you've never had allergies before, I have so many clients and friends and people that are like, yeah, I didn't expect this. Allergies got me.
They call it Cedar Park because there's cedar in Cedar Park.
Cedar wood.
I really hope so.
Or like, is bee caves have pollen? I've always wondered like what's going on with these things.
Bee cave was called
This
bee
sounds
cave.
like a villa.
Actually, yeah, because they had a whole colony of some kind of like Mexican honeybees or something that were living there. So that's why they called it bee cave.
It's funny that they were called Mexican honeybees, just like bats are Mexican bats too, right?
Bats.
Because this was Mexico.
Yeah, we are basically New Mexico.
Right. I'm just saying.
No, I totally
agree. They were the indigenous. We just
they were here first.
I say we. I wasn't here. I wasn't here when that happened. I'm just saying.
No. The weird thing about allergies for me, it's like I'm not particularly allergic to too much, but every now and then they just come out of nowhere and knock me down. I'll be like, oh, I'm allergy free. And then like 4 years go by and all of a sudden it's like allergy season and I'm just like struggling like I've got the flu or something.
Yeah,
You know what I hate? You know what I hate?
What?
I can't walk around in the grass with my socks off.
really.
Oh, because red ants? Prickles?
Pick it. Yeah. Fire anything. Yes. Flipping those little pricker cactus things, that the ants, the fire ants, these beetles that are as large as my fist. So get out of here, man.
What?
Wolf spiders that sprawl the size of your hand. Like, depending on where you are, there's some scary crap. I don't know how many times I've been riding my mountain bike and I've seen tarantulas run across the thing. I was like, oh, that's
Wow.
big.
We do have
It's
a
crazy.
lot of wildlife. I was showing a house in Round Rock, and this house backed up to like a retention pond. It was empty, but there was lots of grass back there, lots of space. And my client's like, "Oh, look at that cat!" And I was like, "Oh, that's so cute." And we were just standing there, and like the cat was moving, and I was like, "I don't think that's a house cat." And it was like legitimately a bobcat. It had a little
Yeah.
nub tail, and it was too big to because it was huge. And it looked small to us, but I was thinking like if we're really that far from a house cat, it would look like the size of my pencil.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Out here in
The
Pflugerville, there's sightings of bobcats, and well, I looked up that they actually don't naturally attack humans, is what I read. So I thought it was okay.
Yeah, cats hate humans.
yeah,
I'm not mad about the bobcat, but like, why is it in Round Rock? So, I don't
I've
know.
seen there's boar sightings all over. I've never had an issue personally with
What?
boar.
What?
Wild boar, wild hogs.
Oh, I heard a Borg.
Yeah,
like
the
Star
Borg. I've
Wars?
never had an issue with the Borg. I've never been assimilated. No, I'm good there. But yeah, so like wild hogs, rattlesnakes. I've had 3 encounters with rattlesnakes.
Mhm.
Scorpions. I've had encounters with them. You know, none of that existed in Chicago. You didn't have that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then all the I'll call them the friends that try to find safe haven in your home as it gets cooler outside.
Mm.
How about grackles?
What's a grackle?
Yeah,
The black
you
ones?
don't hear the
small crows.
yeah the black creepy eyed psycho birds,
Yeah.
the little beady glowing eyes, and they sit on the telephone lines and they just go and
Yeah.
for hours.
And
Like
actually,
And it's in the evening and in the morning.
they tend to congregate at HEBs for some reason, and a lot of times in the morning, they'll be on the ground in the parking lot
Yes.
at HEB.
Yes. Yeah.
While you're on the ground,
Well, and then
it's very weird.
that many birds has plenty of leftovers that they want to share with the world, right? And so don't you dare park under a tree or a telephone line or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's nasty. It's
Yeah.
like, come on, guys, get out of here. Because all the, every bird that migrates south, they just stop here. They're like, I like this place.
Can we circle back to something you kind of mentioned earlier? Where we were talking about just like affordability in general. Our extremely high property taxes piss me off.
Yeah.
I hate it. And because it feels abusive. They literally mind your business with Donna. I've lived in Austin for 30 plus years. Traffic and allergies have gotten worse. She knows. Thank you. Thank you, mind your business with Donna.
Traffic allergies and property taxes.
Yeah. And it's like it was like 2019 and 2020, they didn't touch our property taxes. And then they literally doubled in 21 and 22.
Do you know why they didn't? It wasn't it 2019 when Abor or somebody, the Matrix, accidentally sent the list to the appraisal district of all of our property values on accident. So they had to make up for that.
No, it was very dramatic.
There was a lot of drama in that. Yeah.
Point being, though, the fact that our property taxes jumped up so much was so toxic. I hate saying that because it's so overused, but like seriously, what a crap thing to do. And I had
and it's because it's done differently here versus a lot of other places. So property taxes are done differently in Texas, just like energy, right? Our electric grid, we have our own electric grid, so that was a problem in Texas versus other. So yeah, property taxes, the way we do things sometimes in Texas can be a detriment to our livelihoods.
Yeah.
And supposedly it's like the trade-off with state income tax. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
fair enough.
Well, and the fact that they reassess every year.
Yeah.
The fact that they reassess. Now,
So they
I'm
go up.
grateful that they allow. I'm grateful that they allow us the opportunity to protest.
Mhm.
Right, that's a right that we have. But a lot of people, they don't know, they don't do it. They come from somewhere else, so like, I'm not going to protest, and so now everybody's taxes go up because not everybody knows how to protest.
Yeah, or a lot of people just don't know how. They're intimidated and they never do it.
I'm surprised at that. So there's like I would go to a listing appointment. They're like, oh, we just never protested, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And how many? Let's talk about HOAs. How many places have HOAs now? Like everything new has an
I
HOA.
think like the rule of thumb is anything built after 1990 usually will have an HOA for the most part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
it's easier for them to build that, I think, as a development goes.
yeah. It's too hard to divide up the land. So they just do a common interest subdivision.
I don't think HOAs are terrible though. It definitely depends on the one in the community. But I used to live in a community and the HOA was really hands off. I did some stuff to the house without asking, and I was like, "Crap! They're gonna write me a letter. They're gonna send me a nope." They didn't give a toot.
Yeah, I've been in court for the HOA situation. I think I told you that because my builder didn't file the right permits.
Oh
I was
No.
my
like, dude,
gosh.
yeah, I made him go to court with me. I was like, no, I'm not going to go stand up and try to explain something that I wasn't even here. I was in Costa Rica. Get out of here.
Gosh. What
I
was the
That
had
was fun. That was a fun thing. What
yeah.
else
Did
we
you
got?
figure it out, Ian?
Yeah, it all got taken care of. It actually ended up being mostly dismissed. Yeah, it ended up being mostly dismissed, and then um, there was a fine that the builder had to pay. Small fine. I mean,
Okay.
he just had to pay whatever my ticket was before. Not a big deal. I mean,
Okay.
it was time. It took a few weeks of time and a lot of back and forth. I was in court 3 times for it.
Wow.
Seriously? Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it had to do with impermeable coverage.
Yeah.
Mm. Was it flooding?
And I was like, no, the house, we were on like not even 15% of the land. The house was only consuming about 15% of the land, and the impermeable coverage was like 45% or something, right?
Mhm.
But it was just it was a political thing. It was like, you can clearly see that we're not consuming any additional space,
Hmm.
but they wanted it written a certain way, they wanted it presented a certain way, and I'm like, come on, you're just wasting everybody's time. And so it ended up going to court, and I even said a line like that to the judge. I was like, everybody can see that this is a waste of time. And he's like, well, then why did you fill out the paperwork the right way the first time? I was like, I didn't even fill it out. It wasn't me. This guy was supposed to do it. This guy's standing right here. Talk to him. It's really bad.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I threw him under the bus because he threw me under the bus.
Um, okay, on a totally different note. We were
Yeah.
talking about things that have changed so much in Austin that are no longer Austin. 6th Street, like 6th Street died. Like 6th Street caught leprosy and then just
It's
died.
it's because COVID though. So
Yeah.
many things closed. Like, you can't survive when people aren't allowed to go to your business, when your entire business is, college kids that want to
Of course,
throw
no,
money at it.
definitely. I think the thing that's interesting about 6th Street, though, it's like there's so many locally owned businesses. And for instance, no, okay, let me just stick to this. Sorry, my brain was going to go elsewhere. Yeah, it was like locally owned businesses, and they couldn't after the pandemic, and it's really sad. And then a lot of it is just still really gross, and it didn't make a full comeback, which is really too bad. I mean, E6 or 6th Street has always been kind of gross, but it's just so much more run down now. And then it's the homeless everywhere. And it's just like it's dirty, like dirty, dirty. That's it. That's what I have to say about that. And unsafe. The other thing is it feels a lot more, it feels a lot less safe than it used to.
Yeah. I think something's going on there with that safety too. I was also thinking I loved downtown when I was younger, right? Like being in college, it's like awesome. It's 36. Now I'm in my 40s and I have kids, and I feel like downtown is it's just so youthful. I'm not sure exactly where I could go. Although recently I have like a lease listing at Westgate Tower. So I've been helping like House of Representatives and senators and lobbyists and stuff. And I was like, there's bars by the Capitol. I did not know like coffee shops, which is like a whole nother scene. But I never knew that existed until like recently, or I never cared for it probably. And then yeah, I think it's just like it's still a college town, which is cool, but it's just like where's a mature place for you in Central Austin?
What do you mean by mature place? What does that
I
mean?
don't know. Like I could take my kid there, like my 5-year-old, or I don't want like
The
drunk
school?
people, being immature and too drunk.
I think East Sixth is actually pretty nice when it
You can't
comes to
take
that
your kids
sort of
there
thing.
though.
Yeah, well, I
That may be
mean,
cool,
You
but
shouldn't.
okay. Less
Mueller, I don't
drunk
know.
people on like east of 35 Sixth Street.
That's kind of what I meant. There aren't, yeah, East, there aren't as many drunk people that I've noticed.
I think
Or
so.
like belligerently drunk.
I think if you go further east, like Springdale, there's like these bars
Right.
and
I was gonna
venues.
say Daphne made a face like I don't agree with that. He made a face.
Um, I might, yes, probably did. But I was also gonna say I've got some clients that are really, really into beer and they have a little girl. She's like 3. She's 3. She's had a 3 Rex themed dinosaur birthday party. And they take her to a bunch of breweries because there's some really family friendly breweries out there in the world.
Right. Like
Um,
the
Family
warehouses.
friendly, dog friendly, yeah,
Hmm. Okay.
everything friendly. Yeah, I like that. I
But
like
the
that a lot
breweries
of
aren't like
businesses are doing
in
that.
downtown, right? They're
in
like
downtown.
kind of like around like South Lamar and Old Torf, something like that. There's like Austin Beer Garden, I think.
I mean,
There.
there's a few. Blue Owl Brewery is nice. It's fine. It's family friendly. People aren't crazy there. It's got a
Yeah.
little
Okay.
little turf area. We brought the dogs, friends. They brought their kids. Not a problem.
I hear you. All right.
So what about here's another contribution. This is a bad one. Remember when you used to go downtown Austin and you'd look around and everybody, like not everybody, but people, you'd look at people and they had variety. I was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
think of a way to put that. Yeah. Like
Can you
there
just
was so
tell me?
much variety in the way they acted, the things they wore. There was this creativity, this air of creativity
Mhm.
from so many people that were downtown. And now it's like, nope.
You
Mostly.
mean like
There are certain areas, but overall, I'm trying to be, yeah, trying not to get in
yeah,
trouble
yeah.
here.
Well, this is also like the artists and stuff, like the creatives.
It goes back to Daphne's point. Yeah.
It's kind of like a
Yeah.
gentrification thing. Like you could gentrify creative out of a scene,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
there's probably like a programmer creative. I don't know. Not like a artist creative, but it's like it's more professionals.
Yeah, I mean, we would see a lot of hippies and that kind of stuff, but like we just don't see that as much.
Now you see
I
what is
remember
yuppies?
I've
They
seen
used to,
what?
Yuppies? Is it
yeah,
yuppies?
yeah.
Yeah, that's you're dating yourself on that term, but yeah. Yuppies,
Uh,
dinks. Yeah. Dinkies.
Thanks.
what else?
What's the term for yuppie now?
Hipsters?
Hipsters.
No,
Is that it?
I think 10 years ago it was
or
hipsters. I
hipsters
don't know
not even
what
a
it
yuppie.
is.
Those are like two different.
So
Hipsters actually
so so I'm going to tell you this. I was at I told you I just closed on a condo I think last week at West Campus, and I'm walking around there and I'm like, what is happening?
yeah,
That was my thought the whole time. What is happening? And you look
regarding
at the people that are walking around,
oh the
just
people.
overall vibe, the people. Yeah, it was very interesting. And now, because remember, now UT is Ivy League, right?
Mm-hmm.
According
So
to
I don't know.
what Forbes?
I
I don't know.
I know I
It's
know.
like a
But
thing.
what I mean
I
is
don't.
it's always been kind of a more prestigious feeling school,
Mm-hmm.
and I think now it's a little even more so, right? And so like you look at the people that are going there, just spend some time there. Go to one of the cafes down there. Go to one of the Instagrammable coffee shops and spend a couple hours there and just watch the people that are going in there.
I can add to that.
Like, what is this? Yes, please.
Yeah. So I had a client that bought a condo for their daughter. Just a little tiny condo. This was last year, I think, or year before. And it was just a little condo to put her name so she could get in-state tuition, but the daughter was still living at the dorm rooms. So they came into town to look at condos while they were getting the daughter moved into the dorm. And the mom was telling me, she goes, well, we had gotten our daughter, whatever her name is, this bedroom set that was what I felt appropriate for a dorm room. But I mean, you go in and they've got Crate and Barrel, and the girls have these over the top comforters and these giant pillows and chairs, and it looks like a magazine in there. So I mean, we had to go buy her all new stuff. And I was like, on top of a condo? Just let her use freaking old bed sheets and worn out towels. Let her grow up.
It's also the demographic. Like, I got a listing right now on East 14th, which is really close to campus. And it was formerly the kid's house to go to college. It was like a brother and sister. And we're listed at 1.175 mil now. But like, as realtors, we're going to get the people looking for Central Austin housing for their kid, which is kind of like that group that's attending UT that's at that, buy my kid a property level,
Mm-hmm.
if not a house or a condo.
Yeah.
And
Well, to be clear, it's kind of like the military VA thing. If you have the opportunity, if your kid is going to school, it mostly makes sense for you to buy a nice little condo for them than to try to have them lease something out, unless they're in some kind of situation where they're just rooming with 8 other people and it's just dirt cheap, right? I think that's a good move for most parents if they have the resources to do that. So
Yeah.
just for
maybe
clarity.
the overarching, like the socioeconomics are different. Obviously, we're realtors. We talk about housing. It bleeds through to the
Yeah, but we're
residential.
looking at it through the lens of, if we could go back and do it again, would we have done it this way? Right? Like, if I was in college and I knew that I could buy a house and have all my roommates pay down my
Oh
mortgage
yeah.
and my parents put the down payment, oh my gosh. Like, that would
Yeah.
have changed everything.
What's
But
interesting too
we
is,
had to learn through that.
yeah, the people that had that opportunity weren't in tune with it when it was affordable.
Yeah.
It's just like an interesting kind of scene, and the people that are with it are still with it.
Yeah.
And they could buy at the new price.
So I don't know this world, but I've heard a lot of people complaining about dating in Austin. I know that Austin was like a singles city because there were so many young, uh, resource heavy people. That's how I'll put it. Um, and I see online, you see a lot of complaints about that lately. Anybody know anything? Heard anything about that? Any clients? Any
I think
conversations?
we're all like,
I know you got. I know, but you still hear it. You still hear people talking about it, right? Like, you're still out, and every once in a while you run into somebody and they're like, "Yeah, this place sucks," and I'm like, "Okay, what happened?"
I have my own opinions about that.
Okay,
I feel like great people attract great people.
yeah.
You
I
feel like
thought if
what?
you're like in a college town and you're young, it should work out.
Yeah, I've heard a
I'm not
lot
going
of
to talk about my dating life in college because
like the friends that I have that are single. I'm talking over you. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Here's the mic.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I was just saying, like I feel like the youth could figure it out. I don't know exactly what's going on, and I said I wasn't gonna talk about my dating life in college because I'm married. So let's assume I didn't have a dating life. But you have a bunch of young, smart people all like around 6th Street. The thing is, like, the campus is next to downtown. Like, that's so awesome.
Yeah, but you
Right?
have a bunch of young, smart people that you got to think about the society psychographic right now, the societal psychographic of whether or not they even want to date or how they meet people, whether it's
like
online versus in person. And
Oh.
yeah, like it's just a completely different landscape altogether. So I don't know. I think Austin is less impactful in that way these days. I don't know.
Kind of depends. But I like what Daphne said about great people attract great people.
I'll just say like the folks that I know that have really struggled have major struggles in their world. And I'm like, well, and then the friends that I have that have recently found partners that are wonderful, like my friends are wonderful, or not like just my friends, but like the it's like the
Yeah.
yeah.
I know.
So it's like, well, who's complaining? Where are we actually getting this data from? So
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe I'm just hearing it from
you're
certain
right,
other
you're right.
people
But I mean,
that complain all the time anyway.
no, and I think that's true. But I think part of it is that like we have the apps now, and apps give people so much more instant access to so many people. So it's like, are people more crazy? I don't know. I think you just have access to more of them, and you could see more crazy. But crazy is more public now.
Crazy. Let's talk about that for a minute. Super quick segue. How many times have you seen broken glass at a park from someone who had broken into a car? I used to never see that.
Someone at my
Now,
gym.
like Mount Bonnell, Rainy Street,
Mhm.
all these places. Like that's one. Like I tell people this, everybody's like, "Are you worried about this or that?" And I'm like, "No, that's why I drive a tank. I don't have to worry about it because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's all the time. You see broken glass all over the place. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like that.
I
Now,
go
obviously, more people brings more things that happen.
for sure. Um, Piggybacking off that, there's a gym that I go to at the Arboretum, and it's in a really nice area. And this was maybe a month and a half ago. We parked, and there was a car next to us that had the window blown out. There was glass on the floor, on the ground. So we moved my car because I didn't want to be next. But then I went in and told the lady working at the desk, and she's like, "Yeah, I know somebody already reported it. We're gonna file a report." Like, eh, what a bummer. Really, such a bummer.
I have a July 2024 Austin American Statesman headline.
Yes.
Very interesting. Crime in Austin continues downward trend, though homicides still above pre-pandemic levels.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
We're just gonna stop. We're gonna stop there because we're realtors and we're not allowed to talk about the numbers related to crime
I was going to
statistics
bring
or
up
data.
the river in
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah,
Oh,
I saw that. There are
yeah.
a lot more of articles like that are being exposed. That doesn't mean that the numbers changed. It means that we're hearing about it more. Kind of to Daphne's point, it's just everything. Like you can't hide stuff like you could 10 years ago.
Yeah. No way.
So,
No way.
which is kind of a good thing. It's like it's good to know that, but also you're like, all right, well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
More vigilance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last point I'm going to make is the airport. How many times have you had to like fly to Houston or Dallas first for a connection, then go somewhere?
Yeah.
Versus just like I used to love. It used to be fast. It used to be easy, and it's like all the flights got killed. Like they stopped doing them. That and then yeah.
Who do you fly with?
I'm a. It's a variable. It depends on the scenario.
No, I'm asking for a reason because there's some airlines that will do a lot more direct flights, and then there's others that won't. Like Southwest doesn't. Like,
Yeah,
for instance,
I
right?
hate Southwest anyway. Southwest, I hate you. I don't like you. Let me just start there. Actually, now that you can pick the seats, maybe I like you. If you're watching this, Southwest, maybe. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're getting rid of the South Terminal anyway soon, right?
The South
They're
Terminal?
expanding the South Terminal. So for those of you that don't know, Austin is this international airport that you have to like hop, skip, and a jump to every other airport before you can actually go international. It's weird because there's like 3 flights international. I will say when I flew to Colombia, there was a direct flight to Panama, and I was like, okay, that's impressive. But most of the time, it's like Houston or Dallas and then out.
You still fly to
But I bring that up
Yeah.
because Southwest, Frontier, no, not Southwest, Frontier and Spirit, which were an Allegiant, like you don't want to fly on them anyway most of the time, are they are at the South Terminal. So I think they're getting rid of the South Terminal and just expanding their main footprint at their international terminal. So that will be great because that's like another 40 minutes drive in any kind of traffic.
I think that's fantastic. I wonder what they're going to do with that South Terminal space. Going to turn into like a restaurant or something.
I don't know. Speaking of, I also hate that they got rid of all the food trucks over the
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
There used to be food trucks all up and down South Congress. Come on.
I think that,
And
yeah.
now it's Hermes and Lululemon. And I'm always decked out in Lulu.
Nike,
I don't hate
Nike has a
but
really big store
I
there.
hate what it
Aldo
does to
has
the
a big
environment.
store there.
Mhm.
It's like these like Rodeo Drive quality shops, which there's nothing wrong with that. I love it, but like take that to the
Yep.
domain. That goes in the domain. Like leave South Con. Well, it's too late now.
Yeah, lately I've been having to Google Maps
It's too
a
late.
food truck and find the new spot. It's not in the prime real estate locations that we used to venture out to.
Yeah, we used
Yeah,
to.
I was driving to Pflugerville a couple weeks ago to show some houses, like northeast Austin, Pflugerville, and I off Dessau in some random road off Dessau, there was this huge food trailer park full of
Yeah.
like Middle
They're
Eastern,
further
Yes.
They're
like
further out. It's
those
interesting.
kebabs, Jamaican food, like, all sorts of stuff.
They're pretty much moving out of central Austin into other Austin nooks and crannies.
Yeah, which is good because
John
actually
S. says
neighborhoods need it. Sorry.
Yeah.
John says Alaska Airlines is our favorite. That's a good one.
That is a
I've
good one.
never flown to Alaska, but that's the fact that
Those are really good.
did I take them? Did they stop? They must have stopped in. I went to Banff. And you just went to Montreal or Toronto, Daphne?
Winnipeg.
Oh no, Winnipeg. Winnipeg. That's right. Did you take Alaska Airlines or who did you take?
I took WestJet, who is connected to Deltoid Airlines.
Oh, Deltoid. Got it.
It was great. It was
Huh.
good. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Alaska's actually, people were talking about Alaska Airlines in Winnipeg, and they were saying that it is really good. And a lot of the folks that I met really enjoyed Alaska Airlines.
All right. Well, we're like way over time, even though
Yeah,
it's a
we
great conversation. My laptop battery is about to die. So, final thoughts, y'all?
I think growth is inevitable, change is inevitable. I think embracing it is really important, but also making sure to keep and respect the culture that brought people here is so important. I love the growth. And also, I loved kind of the little small town Texas vibe that Austin had. I think as long as people continue to be friendly, respectful, welcoming, open minded, we can try to keep a lot of what we had. Of course, it's going to change, but as long as we're mindful to respect it, that could potentially help us move in the right direction instead of veering way off of what we were.
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
piggyback off of that. Two thoughts. One, yeah, like appreciate what you have, right? Like you're driving further out to this food truck park, right? Like when you're sitting there and eating, appreciate it because one day that's going to be some retail strip or some building or something, right? Like,
Victoria's Secret.
yeah. So, if you see an old house in Austin, appreciate it, like the history of it, because it might turn into something. I still think this city is going to grow. Two, because I've been working around so many politicians and legislature and stuff regarding the taxes. Maybe if we get educated enough on policy and figure out the code of the voting and what the heck is going on with property taxes, maybe we could figure that out. I would challenge everybody, even us, to look into policy more. And that's my takeaways.
I love it. I think kind of to both your points, it's understanding what you have and what you want. So if you're already in Austin, shoot, if you're outside of Austin, what I did was T-chart, right? It's like I'm looking at this place, I'm looking at this place. What are the things that I like and what are the things that I don't? You should always consider that if you're making any big decision in your life, and moving ends up being a big decision. And so if you're doing that as you're looking at Austin, in my opinion, Austin ends up being, or at least the Austin area ends up being higher on the list than many other places. I think there are just a handful of things that end up knocking it down, usually cost of living and weather. Those are the two things that I see knock it down on the list. But everything else, and maybe too busy, but you can just move further out if it's too busy, right?
Yeah.
But everything else ends up being, pretty positive. So, yeah, I still think it's a good place with a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity for people if you can handle the Texas weather, Texas politics, and the Texas property taxes. That's that. Very cool. Well, thank y'all. We'll see you. I don't know if we're going to meet. Well, I guess we'll see each other in a couple weeks, but we won't be meeting for Christmas, I'm assuming. So, but we'll figure that out. But thank y'all so much. Thank you for the comments and the. What were you going to say?
I said maybe we'll meet for Christmas. No,
Maybe.
Maybe not.
maybe not.
Maybe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.